questions there, so you can let me know when it's time. Good afternoon and welcome to UnitedTV. My name is Kemal Erkan. Today is February 28, 2025. Today we are going to have a little bit different topic than our usual, and as our guest is a very special Delawarean who has a lot of responsibilities in the public arena, and hopefully we are going to have a very good discussion with Dr. Tony Allen. Dr. Allen is the president of Delaware State University, and what makes the school kind of special is it's one of the historically black colleges and universities, and it's the first one in Delaware. And these universities, these organizations, they have different challenges than other organizations, other universities, in terms of financial support they get, in terms of their resources, faculty salaries. And Dr. Allen has been doing a great job in the last several years to lead this unique college, unique university in the state of Delaware. So we are going to learn. It's going to be a lot of learning for me as well, because we haven't covered this before, and I'm hoping that everyone will enjoy the discussion that we have. Dr. Allen, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, Brother Kemal, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, thank you. And I do apologize for the delay that we had earlier.
Not a problem.
It's been almost 4 years I have done this, and this is the first time we had a delay because, honestly, there was some emergency in our surgery center, and thank you for understanding and being available for us. Now, we would like to get to know you and get your organization. So if you can give us a brief background on you, who you are. We just find out that you and I, we worked together in the past, but both we couldn't remember, but I actually checked my records to see if I knew you before. Definitely we were in same group of people who work for certain purposes, well, AKA Jack Markell, I guess I can't say the name. So tell us who you are.
Yeah, I'm Tony Allen. Glad to be on the show, first of all. A very proud Delawarean. Been here since I grew up here, went to the public school system here, went to the University of Delaware as well, and have been in nonprofit, private, and public sectors throughout my career. Last 7 years, I have been at Delaware State, 2 years as provost, now 5 years as president. Delaware State is something I had hoped for and worked very diligently toward. It is 134 years old, as you said, the only historically black college university in Delaware, but among the 101 HBCUs in the country, which is a rich and proud tradition. HBCUs have been around for about 188 years, actually starting out with Cheney University, which is just right up the road from Delaware. And the second one is Lincoln, which is also just right up the road. So we are very proud of the graduates that we produce, the students we have today, and what we think our trajectory is for the future.
So you did a lot of different things prior to joining the university. So, well, you worked with Joe Biden.
I did.
I think Joe Biden now is probably resting at Rehoboth Beach. Probably he's having some good weather day there now. He doesn't have to be so busy anymore. So how was
he deserves some good rest.
He does,
good
right?
work.
So I think he's a year younger than my dad, and I kind of admire the energy that they have. So being the president is not an easy job. So almost like 12, 13-hour full schedule. You know, you have to kind of give them credit. So,
well, I would tell you, Kamal, don't mean to interrupt you, but he's special to me, obviously, personally, but also to Delaware State. He started his first Senate campaign on the hallowed grounds of Delaware State University in 1972. And that is a big honor for us. He also appointed me his chair of the President's Board of Advisors on HBCUs several years ago. So that gave us an opportunity to really have the president's ear. And I can tell you that more than any other president in the history of the Republic, Joe Biden has contributed to HBCUs substantively, both in word and deed, upwards of about $17 billion across many of the issue areas that make HBCUs strong.
That's good to hear. Now, Dr. Allen, so after working in the corporate work and the public services, going into the education and also the level that you got into that is you are the president of this college, this university. How did you make that decision?
It's an interesting question. I will tell you that in 1995, I had 10 goals, wrote down 10 goals. So it was 25. One of those goals was to be president of Delaware State University. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. I certainly wasn't in higher ed at the time. But I knew it was a sleeping giant. Wanted to spend some time really thinking through how to really put a loudspeaker on all the things I knew Delaware State was and could be. And in 2008, I tried to become the president and got to the finals of their search process and was so good that they scrapped the search and started over. But they hired a great friend of mine, a guy named Harry Williams, who did a fantastic job while at Delaware State. And in 2017, Harry and I had a conversation about my interests, and he basically said, he had an opportunity open, that was the provost job. And you have to earn it, but if I did, it would help me get to my final goal. And that's what happened. I can tell you at the time I was working for Bank of America, which was an exceptional experience for me. I spent 15 years there. One of the reasons is it was exceptional because at that bank, they really believe in community engagement among their senior leaders and across their global footprint. So for 4 years, then under Governor Markell, I chaired the Wilmington Education Improvement Commission, which is a K-12 public education reform effort in Delaware. And that's what really got me going and thinking about how we present real opportunities to young people so that they can not only be great scholars, but can be contributing global citizens wherever they find themselves in the world.
So now the Delaware State University, it's different than many of the HBCU institutions. Now, in terms of ranking, number 9 in the historically Black colleges and universities, number 42 in the top public schools, and number 3 in public HBCUs. And knowing the history of college that's established in 1850, it must be one of the first ones, as we mentioned before. Now, what actually differentiates DSU from other universities in the same category?
I would say if you're speaking about other HBCUs, I'd say no two HBCUs are made the same. So I'm very proud of all of my sister institutions. We at Delaware State believe that we are the most substantively diverse, contemporary, and unapologetic HBCU in the country, and among the fastest growing as well. And the way we think about it is that you can come here really from across a range of K-12 experiences. So have somebody many people who are very talented could go to school anywhere. And some people who've had challenges in their K-12 experiences. Put them in the same environment, provide them what we believe are real wraparound services, quality education, and some real thought about their commitment to being global citizens, and we can get them across that stage. There's an indicator that we use a lot. It's called social economic mobility. And effectively what that means is, can you take a low resource student and graduate and matriculate them at the same rate you would graduate your general population? And we are among the top 1% of schools in the country, HBCUs or otherwise, that can do that. That for us is the standard bearer for us. So I always say to folks in Delaware, why are we so important? If you believe in higher access to education for all, Delaware State University is going to be your best bet, and it will put your student, your son or daughter, in an environment that looks like the world we are becoming.
So there was an acquisition of the Wesley College joining you guys, right? So when was that actually?
2021 is when we closed. It was an interesting process for us. I'll tell you a little story about that. We started in COVID, as you know, talking about the acquisition of Wesley College. So my board, I'm sure many of my board members thought I was crazy, but I thought it was a unique opportunity for us to really take some students. They had about 600 students or so at the time, who looked like our students deserved to finish their degree at a quality institution. And we could, in fact, use many of their resources, most notably their health and behavioral services program, and they had an exceptional nursing program. So we went through due diligence for about a year, came to the conclusion that we could do it. The board voted on it. And I can tell you we got 21 buildings, 50 acres of land, downtown Dover, as I said, about 600 students. If take the students out, that all appraises at about $31 million, and we got it for free, which was good for us because we needed bigger space, more presence, and to really enhance our College of Health and Behavioral Sciences, which we got all of that done. And I'm proud to say that a preponderance of the students that started at Wesley have now since graduated at Delaware State. And that campus in particular is thriving. And if you've ever been on Wesley's campus, on one side of the campus is a pretty well-heeled community. On the other side of the campus is one of the poorest communities in Delaware. And we wanted to make sure that we could connect with both communities, but particularly that low-resource community who had students and parents that believe in Del State in a very real way. We wanted to make sure that we could pull them in to the campus that they can call their neighbor, and that's what happened. That's what's happened. So I'm quite proud of what's happening at Wesley College. And I can tell you, we were the first HBCU to ever acquire another institution. So it wasn't insignificant for us, but I think it set the pace for how we've been trending relative to our own growth and development over time.
And because Wesley is not the HBCU, right? So that's from that point, it's the first, or is it just, it's the first ever?
No, first ever an HBCU was ever acquired.
Interesting. Now, as you mentioned earlier, you were appointed by President Biden as the chair of the President's Board of Advisors on HBCU. Now, one of the reasons we actually reach out to you as we are trying to kind of open up our horizon from just healthcare and economy and understanding the society that we live in, we need to kind of better understand different elements of the society, and colleges, any other education organization, they are the main elements. So, and actually, we tried to bring you maybe a year or two ago, and that didn't go through. And then this year we tried again. And I always kind of try to have a good reasoning why we are inviting such guests. And again, understanding from our point, from healthcare standpoint, we are providing care for those who need care, and also preventive care as well. And one of the issues that we have been dealing, especially after the pandemic, is the social determinant of health, and understanding it's not just providing the care, but it's also understanding the situational awareness of the society that we live in. And colleges do have a great role for us to close some of those gaps. Now, number one, from the resources standpoint, that you guys can actually give us more manpower as we need more of those, but also educating people who are your students and doing what you do. You just mentioned something about the Wesley College's campus being on a kind of like a border of, wealthy and not wealthy neighborhoods, and the college has a role to kind of bring those two together. So, but you, as the HBCU advisor, the board, the chair of that board, you know that there are still a lot of issues that HBCUs are dealing with. And what are some of those big changes on the policies that's making it difficult for you guys?
Well, it's a great question, great perspective. I guess I would start with the assets that HBCUs bring. So every year we graduate about 325,000 students of color across the country. 325,000 of those 101. And United Negro College Fund did a study about 2 years ago that effectively asked the question, what is the key indicator for an African American from a low resource community actually getting into the middle class today? Mm-hmm. And the answer came back, the attendance at an HBCU. So it's just that important that even today, where lots of kids have lots of other options, to get into the middle class from a low resource community, their biggest indicator is their attendance at an HBCU. So from an assets standpoint, that's important to know. The other thing I would say is we contribute about $16 billion to the GDP every year collectively. So we are a big economic engine, to your point, in communities we call home, many communities of which are low resource. So it's really important that a university like ours and others are anchors in those communities and strong as a result. When I was chairing the board for President Biden, we had 4 areas of interest. The first was physical and technological infrastructure. We already know we provide quality education, but we wanted our living and learning spaces to match that education. And sometimes because of systemic, historic inequities, that is simply not the case. But in order to compete for a student, regardless of where they come from or what they look like, they and their parents are going to want real world contemporary living and learning spaces. And we needed the president and the administration to understand that. And in kind, they acted aggressively on that front. The second one was research. So we believe in particular that the research that we do, particularly as it relates to disproportionate realities between different groups, whether that be racial or ethnic, is important to understanding what's happening across our country. Unfortunately, we as an HBCU community do not give nearly enough in research dollars that we have capacity for. So I'll give you one example. There's one university that I will keep nameless that gets more funding in research and contracting dollars every year from the government than the 101 HBCUs combined. So our opportunity really is important, and we believe we have the manpower, the scholar manpower, woman power, to do the work that is effective.
So why is that happening? Like, what's the reason? What's the underlying issue there? How is that
Two
even
things.
possible?
I think there are 2 things. One, there is a sense that we are so under-resourced that we don't have the capacity to do it. That's not true. I can tell you, 2017, Delaware State had a $17 million research portfolio. Today, we have a $45 million research portfolio. So we can prove that if you give us an opportunity, we can deliver. The other thing is most schools grow from a research perspective by getting these kinds of investments. So if you're able to build a new lab, for instance, that's not going to mean something just for that grant you might have. It may mean something for the whole of your research portfolio going forward. And 3, it is also a way for you to attract more scholars to your institutions. So that really enables us to really attract the best and brightest across the country to join us from a faculty perspective. And that's the case we have made to the president and across the country and during his term in office. So that's why it's important. There's no different in growing an HBCU than it is growing any other institution, as long as the investments are being made in that regard. So the third is, because there were 4 points, the third really relates to connected pathways, which is to say, if you're going to have a very diverse set of students in your portfolio, you're going to want private sector, public sector entities to come really get to know your students early in the process, as opposed to when they're just getting ready to think about internships and the like. So we try to think of it as a pathway that really puts together the practitioner and the student early in their matriculation, which we think helps both parties. And the last is HBCU preservation and growth. You probably alluded to this in your opening comments. Lots of our resources, under-resourcing relates to endowment. So we have a $50 million endowment at Delaware State, but that's not nearly significant enough endowment as you might see from the bigger institutions of the world. I'm talking many of them have billions of dollars in their endowment. We do not have that, and many of my sister institutions don't have that capacity too. So when you don't have that endowment, you don't have the cushion that you need in the softer times.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are tools that can create that, both in the private industry and in the public sector, that we're trying to take advantage of as well. We've made that case. We made that case to the administration. So those four things are really the big tent poles for how you can make some really significant investments and get significant returns from the HBCU community.
No, that's great. Now, just so that for those who may not actually Google this information, there are 17 academic departments which offers 8 different associate degrees, 47 bachelor degrees, and 24 master degrees, and 7 PhD programs, doctoral
You've done your
programs.
homework, sir.
I did. So the AI always helps us. So now, there are a lot of work that your school is doing, and I don't know. I mean, I can just tell you from my own perspective, or maybe perception. I don't know. I don't think it gets enough recognition from the work that you guys are doing, because having all these in place, running it efficiently, differentiating your organization from the others in a good way. These are really important. So one of the challenges that we see, especially after, again, pandemic, is inflation. We were not used to having inflation in this country. My background, I was born and raised in Turkey, and in first 25 years of my life, I was very used to the inflation at a really great level. And then the last 25 years being here, this was not part of our life. But then I know in the last couple of years, this is a huge impact. How is this affecting students in terms of affordability and financial aids available to them? What type of changes are you seeing in that side of the element of those issues?
Yeah, Kemal, it's significant, and you outlined it. The inflationary pressure we see on just making sure that we can stand up our business every day is not insignificant. Something we pay attention to while trying to juggle, to your point, the affordability issue. So just to give you a sense, there was 10 or 15 years where we didn't raise tuition at all. And over this last couple of years, we've had modest tuition increases to really create a low-cost, high-value experience. We've had to do it to keep up with some of the challenges that you mentioned, but we've done it in a really thoughtful way, in my view. And I can tell you that it costs about $8,500 for a year to go to Delaware State. So it is already a low-cost proposition. So we do feel like we have some elasticity to continue to make sure that we're pricing appropriately, giving the students a quality education experience, and keeping the lights on. Here's what I think Delaware has done well, and I give Governor John Carney a lot of credit here. We spent a fair amount of time building the Inspire program. Inspire, in fact, you said you have a 2.75, you have a commitment to public service while you're in school at Delaware State. The state will pay, and you're graduating senior from a Delaware high school. The state will pay full tuition 4 years for you to come to Delaware State University. So to give you a sense that went into effect those 4 years went into effect about 3 years ago. Just to give you a sense of what's happening as a result, about 80% of all our incoming in-state freshmen are Inspire scholars now. So they see the unique opportunity. And to your point about affordability, that does a lot to ease the fears of parents and students who are trying to think of ways to pay for school. It's also notable to note that about 84% of our students are Pell eligible in some way. So they need resources in order to stay in school. So the Pell Grant efforts, and the Biden administration took some significant steps during his time in office to increase the amount of Pell, which has been helpful as well. And then we spend a fair amount of time raising private money Just last year, and every December we have a scholarship ball. Just past December, we raised about $4.5 million specifically for scholarships for our students.
Now, you were able to actually grow the enrollment in the last 5 years by 25%, right? So I don't know if you mentioned that in, sometimes when, I'm doing these, I'm always ready for the next question. And then
no problem. No problem. You're right, though.
I may miss some of the stuff that you are saying. I apologize. So, but the 25% enrollment growth in the time that this is like post-pandemic, that's pretty significant. So, there must be something that you are doing you are the head of that organization, right? So there must be something you are doing better than others are not. So what is that actually? I can tell it from the CEO standpoint. So I
don't know if it's better or not, but I tell you this, the Inspire Scholarship has helped us tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
So that we've become a very good partner with the state. And when you can take tuition off the table for talented students and their families, more of those students will come. Second thing is we have an early college school. So I very much believe in deepening the talent pipeline. So instead of waiting till they get to you as a freshman, if you can get to them early in the pipeline, they're going to have a better shot of understanding how to get to school, what school to go to, and then how to matriculate to that school successfully. We have an early college school that is 7th through the 12th grade. It's 600 students. Mm-hmm. We've had it now, celebrating its 10th year. Those students can earn up to 60 college credits in classes with our university students before they're ever admitted into any institution. So you earn up to 60 college credits, tuition free, by the way. That makes you second semester sophomore, first semester junior, and you haven't paid for school yet. That'll take you back to the Inspire Scholarship. So if you qualify for the Inspire Scholarship, most of our early college school students do, then they have 2 more years, again, tuition free because they're Inspire Scholars, to get their undergraduate degree. This has worked so well that many of our students have, in 4 years, graduating from the early college school, have not only gotten their undergraduate degree, they've gotten their master's degrees. So it really is interesting. Now, all of them don't go to Delaware State. We've got about 57% of them go to Delaware State, but 94% of them go to college in general. So we really believe that the talent pipeline is important. And the last thing I'd mention, I think is important, is our online footprint. So we have become much more aggressive in the online world. And we see that as a unique opportunity, both for traditional students, non-traditional students, those who might have stopped out of school and never came back, but want to finish their degree now. And for adult learners who are interested in a range of certificates and badging. When you couple all of that together, it really does give you a nice, responsible growth strategy. And we've tried to maintain that over the course of the last couple of years.
Now, the sports are extremely important for universities. Yeah. How are you guys doing on that department?
We're doing much better. I would tell you, one of my greatest hires is legendary high school basketball coach Stan Waterman, who coached close to 3 decades at Sanford High School, won 10 state championships.
Wow.
A couple of years ago, we brought him on to run our basketball program, and he's completely turned the basketball program around. It's never been a point in my time at the university that the basketball team has been any better, both on and off the court. And I would add that we were a win away from winning the MEAC championship last year, and that was just Coach Waterman's 3rd season. So I feel good about that. You might have heard of a hire we made recently, legendary Eagles wide receiver, Deshaun Jackson. And he has been a terrific university leader in addition to a football coach. So I'm really looking for folks who can think across the enterprise, not just in their specific division. And he's brought a certain energy to the program. And the program's had a rough couple of years that I think is going to turn itself around here quickly. So I'm feeling very good about that. You should know, generally, we're tied for the most sports programs in our conference with Howard University. Mm-hmm. We have a range of different programs. We're bringing on a women's wrestling program. We have an equestrian program you might know as well, and a triathlon program too. Our volleyball team has won the MEAC 2 in their last 3 years. So I feel pretty strong about what they're doing on the field. Even those teams who are struggling, because I think they're getting some really good leaders in place now. But I feel even better about what they're doing off the field. They collectively, our student athletes carry about a 3.2 GPA and continue to not only do what they need to do in their athletic career, but make contributions to the local community as well.
Absolutely. So I think the sports in the United States colleges, universities, unless people do go outside of United States and see what's happening in other countries, they really don't know how good we have here. So I went to one of the best colleges in Turkey, and we didn't have a really good, strong team of any sports team. We have to take like 107 credits to finish, maybe more than that. I don't know. Like it was so much work, so much studying, and you almost kind of not able to adopt certain lifestyle changes, because this is how we are getting ready for life, right? So it's not just isolating for 4 years and then you just come back and do something else. So this sports part of it is something that other countries really need to see this as an example. And I think we are doing a really good job. And there are so many talented people. I have one in my studio right now. You met him earlier. So he played for UD. And then I have one tennis player, Alp Santai. He played for Penn State. He was in their tennis team. Unfortunately, I didn't qualify for any of those, but I'm still playing tennis on a regular basis, though. So like the quality that they can get is kind of like what I was probably trying to emphasize. So, like in this, like if you were to kind of measure how good they play, like in Alp's situation, is one of my client managers. He's almost like a pro. Like he was actually ranked. Well, I forgot to mention that she's going to probably be upset. I have Anna Melnikova from Golden Beacon. She played tennis there, and she's one of our managers here. And the level of play is at a pro level. So, and then that means they are able to get their education. They are able to play so great. Now, I've been taking lessons for so many years. I have a coach on a weekly basis. Getting to that level.
Get some lessons from her.
Well, no, she just beat me up every time we play. So I can get a single set. So I can get some games though. So, but they're still nice enough to play with me. So, kind of like charity. That's their charity when they play with me. So
like my son played me in basketball.
So no, that's again, those things have a lot to do in the social settings that we live in. So it's not just for the person who's playing, families, friends who are participating, and getting ready for what's in front of them for the players. It's amazing. So and I'm so glad that you guys are doing a lot of good things on your side with these transfers that you have. Now, one, and I know we have we kind of start late, and then I know we have limited time to finish, but I do want to actually mention with the current changes happening with the administration in the White House, your school is one of those schools you are almost at 70% of the students who are Pell eligible. This is for the federal funding that you are and your students are able to get. Right now, your portfolio is, you mentioned, about 40 million-ish. Are you worried about the changes that's coming to your way?
It's so funny you mentioned Kemal. I just did 2 speaking engagements yesterday, and I said this because I mean it. I've been thinking about it. This is not the time to worry. It's the time to get to work. And I feel like we have seen ups and downs from various administrations over the course of HBCU's 188-year history, and we've gotten through them. We'll get through them now too. The one thing I would say is HBCUs are not particularly a partisan issue. We have a congressional caucus in both houses that is focused on HBCUs. On the House, one is a Republican, one is a Democrat. In the Senate, One is a Republican, one is a Democrat, and that Democrat's Chris Coons, our senior senator here in Delaware. And I have always worked on both sides of the aisle and have really seen the appreciation that both sides of the aisle have for HBCUs. As I said, we're an economic driver. We contribute to many of the communities that they represent. And we're doing very good things with respect to making sure that we're putting quality professionals in the communities they can call home. So I'm not suggesting that I'm Pollyannish about the things that I've seen here in the last couple of weeks, but I am not just hopeful, working toward what I think are unique opportunities. And those of us in higher ed generally that were really focused during the last administration, we were preparing for changes, because changes are likely to come regardless of who's in office. Sure. And I feel like Delaware State has done a good job positioning itself in that regard.
And, I know some of the changes are being presented in a really kind of exaggerated way, in my opinion, when these things are happening. And as much as, people criticize President Trump, I think when it comes to these social issues, I don't believe that he's this conservative, for example. When you have 3 wives and your son-in-law is Jewish and your 2 wives were models, you can be that conservative, right? So he has different ways of what he sees in how he presents himself versus how actually he processes things. And I'm hoping that some of these things are just exaggerated, and I know that at the end of the day, we need to make the right decisions for the societies that we live in. One of the things that we covered last week, what happens when we don't actually have, when we don't pay our taxes, right? So, the taxes are being paid for not just for the roads and other things, but there's a lot of the well-being to keep the society together. So if you are not able to take care of those who has different needs, special needs, like Medicaid program, if you actually just leave that population alone, that's gonna come back to you. It's like a huge snowball. Like it's gonna smash you because they need it, and we need to to live in a peaceful society. We need to do our dues. We need to pay our dues, and then we need to take care of those individuals who needs help in that case. So, and because of all those, I know that at the end of the day, I think he's going to make reasonable decisions. He's going to make reasonable changes, and hopefully, I'm not wrong. So, because otherwise, it's going to be very painful 4 years for all of us, and we don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah, I would say I'm hopeful in the country. Because we've had cycles before where we've been worried about our leadership, quite frankly. And some of that has not proved particularly helpful for a part of our American citizenry. But we've always gotten through it and always become better as a result. So I believe in the system of government, what it represents for the people, and I don't see it as any one person's singular authority. And I think we the people is real. We just have to make sure that instead of posting our frustration on Facebook and thinking that is protest, that we are really about focusing on the work in front of us and doing that very well.
Right. So hopefully the future is going to be all good for all of us. And I know some of these changes, we are a healthcare provider, it makes us nervous as well. Yeah. There's already a physician shortage. Now, one thing that I know this is not part of my questions that I planned, but medical school, when can we have a medical school in Delaware? And you mentioned Howard. You mentioned Howard, your sister school, I believe, right? Howard in DC.
Yeah, Howard does have
and
a great.
I hired so many physicians from Howard in the last 20 years. Great people. So why can't we have one in Delaware?
Let me tell you, your new governor believes in a medical school, as I'm sure you know. We are interested in any discussions around that makes sense for Delaware, makes sense for Delaware State University, and have entertained some of those discussions in a thoughtful way here. I don't know where all of that will lead us, but not only do we have a physician's shortage, we have a nursing shortage.
Absolutely.
Which is critical as well. And our College of Health and Behavioral Sciences is really about the business helping us understand those shortages and solve some of those crises as you outlined. So I can just tell you that I think because of the new governor's interest, there'll be lots more discussions and maybe some action related to just that.
Well, from United Medical ACO standpoint, we serve almost 115,000 patients at the primary care level. And there are also like 22 different specialist groups as part of our accountable care. And with so many different outpatient locations, we are here if you need our help, not just from the policy support, but also any of the offices that you guys need for rotation and other things, because Delaware should have its own medical school, and I believe there's a huge potential, and it can help the physician shortage and the nursing shortage in a great level. And then we are hoping that we can see that, and hopefully we can see that under your leadership at DSU. Well, I know we are at time, and again, I apologize for the beginning with the delay and being flexible. That's extremely important for me. Thank you so much for joining us. And I do hopefully in the future want to bring you back, and then we can actually kind of focus on a couple of the specific topics that I would like to discuss. And maybe sometime later this year, that would be great if we can have you back.
I'd love to do it. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us.
All right. Take care.
There, so you can let me know when it's time.